Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to yet another edition of our story. My name is Omulangira Kalema, and of course, there are so many things that we need to talk about as Africans, and this is the place to be. Dr. Kojo is not new to you. Doctor, how are you doing?
I'm very good. You've mentioned all my names. I'm Dr. Kojo Ablode. You must always add the Ablode because there are so many Kojos where I come from.
Okay.
I'm Kojo because I'm a male born on a Monday.
Oh.
But then I have
Ablode?
my name, which is Ablode, for my family. So you need to put the two together. Otherwise, when you say Kojo, anybody born where I come from on a Monday is Kojo.
It's like you say Tom, Sam.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
Dr. Kojo Ablode is a development expert, and we are privileged to be having him here on the show. Then next to me is a brother, Bongo, Bongo.
Yeah, Bongo Benjamin.
An independent researcher. Yes, what do you do? What do you do when you say independent researcher? In what field are you talking about here?
I am an independent researcher in hempnomics, actually a pioneer at the East African Polytechnic College, Chamberlain.
What is hempnomics?
Hempnomics is the arts, the culture, the sciences and economics based on hemp cannabis. That strategic resource that when allowed will definitely help maintain our health and recover our economies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is quite interesting. You know, when you talk about cannabis, it's illegal in Uganda, yet, there are so many uses. Now, back to you, Doctor. We are now 61 years down the road as African Union, formerly Organization of African Unity. What went wrong at first? From OAU to AU, was it something good to become AU? Was it bad to remain as OAU? First, give us some insight about that.
Thank you, and I'm good to be here again. I think that when the dawn of decolonization started, that generation of Kwame Nkrumah and co in their leadership felt that there is need for Africa to come together, to unite, because they understood clearly that the boundaries we have, number one, were not created by us.
Yeah.
Number two, they were not created for us, the African people. So in their thinking, they realized that those boundaries were created as areas of influence based on the resources that are available there.
Oh, yeah.
It had nothing to do with the African people. So when Kwame Nkrumah and co started decolonizing, chasing the colonizers out of this continent, they realized that there was the need for an organization to fast track the removal of those enclaves so that we can become one.
Okay.
To remove the boundaries and make Africa one nation for African people. That was the essence of setting up the Organization of African Unity. And the name itself speaks for its purpose. The purpose of the Organization of African Unity, formed in 1963, is to declare Africa a united nation. Are you getting the point?
Yeah.
First, say yes, we are united. You get the point? But some way, somehow, the same issues that we have, the same challenges that we have, where we have three key challenges as African people. We don't think for ourselves.
Yes. That's what's challenging.
There are other people who think for us. We don't discuss our issues. Other people discuss our issues and determine what we should do. So we are not in charge of our thoughts, what we think about. We are not in charge of what we discuss. We are not in charge of the things we do. But our sovereignty lies in the power to do these three things. So this brings us to the topic of Africa's sovereignty, the African Union.
African Union, yes.
And the sovereignty of the African people.
From OAU to AU.
I'm coming back to that. Because the purpose is to reclaim our sovereignty as African people.
Is it the same purpose for both?
Now, what happened in that transition? For me, I think that it is a deception to deceive the African people. One, to change the name, which originally openly explains the purpose of the organization, to hide it in something that looks like the European Union. We are not united. How do you have an African Union? That organization is supposed to be there to organize the unity. And when we organize the unity, then we can come out and say we are a union. Are we a union? No, you tell me.
I was wondering because I was.
Are we a union?
I was wondering because you're having OAU to AU. You know.
When we're still struggling with the East African Federation.
You know.
It is a deception. We were fooled. The African people were fooled at that point of saying we are changing from the African Organization of African Union. They have not finished their organization. They were supposed to organize the African people into a union that will become the African Union. But this organization has not been done. Then they deceive the African people by changing the name.
Just the name.
That reflects the mandate of the organization. To present it as if we are united and start calling it the African Union. We are not an African Union. They need to go back to
OAU.
To the OAU and finish with the organization. Then we shall become an African Union.
Let's talk about
I think that whole change in name, the purpose is to deceive the African people.
That we are already united?
No. To pretend that we are united, therefore we must be called a union.
A union.
Are we united? We have a single currency.
Maybe a union is easy to manage and to destroy if you want to.
No, the point is, union is not anything we have to struggle to.
You know, it is what happens.
Yeah, it is an action. It must be there.
It must be there.
Yeah, what shows that we have an African Union? What shows that Africans are united, the African people are united, and therefore are qualified to be called a union?
Have at least a euro.
Are you getting the point?
They have a single a common currency.
We have an African dollar.
Are you getting the point?
Yes.
It's a deception. I want my brothers and sisters in Africa to know that change of name, that subtle thing they did, like saying we are no more the Organization of African Union, we are now the African Union. What shows that there's an Africa has a union? It's not there. You tell me if you have. It's a fallacy.
You know, let's talk about the great people who were actually behind all this organization of African Union, like the presidents, the likes of Osajefo, Nkrumah, Kenneth Kaunda from Zambia,
Nasser,
Kenyatta,
Haile
Selassie, yes, Milton Obote here in Uganda.
Exactly.
Yes, they had their agenda, you know,
and it's one agenda.
What is that?
2, not 3, not 4, not 5. One agenda.
One agenda.
So when they sat down to name that organization, they said, let's call it the Organization of African Unity.
Yes.
Are you getting the point?
Yes.
So I don't think the organization has been done.
So there's nothing, because in the agenda, of course, there was some bit of fighting, you know, for decolonization.
That's like Casablanca, Monrovia groups,
Yes, for decolonization.
Exactly.
That includes, of course, economic decolonization.
Yeah.
Who funds the
now here we come to your expertise now, you know.
Yeah.
look at our economy as Africa, as a state, as Africa.
That is not part of the, should not, you don't put the cart before the horse, because the horse must pull the cart.
Okay.
Issues of economics, issues of whatever other issues are secondary to our sovereignty. Because if we start discussing those issues without sorting out the issue of the sovereignty of the African people, then you are not going to get any outcomes. You can't discuss an economy when you are not sovereign.
Let's be talking about sovereignty, and then you told us that it's control, It's
Power.
control, it's power.
Yeah, to control.
You look at Africa with 54 states.
Yeah.
Then of course we say boundaries are bad, which is okay, boundaries are bad. But when you look at what each country possesses, as per now we may use the word country, because we want to know now what Uganda has, what Ghana has, what Senegal has, what maybe Egypt has. You look at the resources. We have different resources. How can we come together as a unity, as an organization, so that we can manage our resources?
You see, I want us to first completely break down the role of the African Union. The role of the Organization of African Unity to the African Union. Me, I don't see any African Union. I think that thing should still go back to the original name of the Organization of African Unity until the organization is complete.
Yes.
Then we can transit to a union.
To a union.
Are you getting the point?
Yes, yes.
Now, what is the purpose? The purpose is to unite Africans, African people. Are you getting?
Yeah.
It is not just about the boundaries. It is about Africans being one. Are you getting the point?
Yeah.
One in very many ways. Common grounds when it comes to everything. What does that mean? It means that the African Organization of African Unity has the responsibility to declare that Africa has only one boundary on the oceans.
That's quite challenging.
How?
Do the leaders agree to that?
Who are the leaders? I think the African Union, the Organization of African Unity, is our leader. These state issues, they are part of the colonial system. I want you to do that.
Yes, but
what I want you to know is that if we continue these conversations without drawing a clear line between Africa and African people and colonial, systems and arrangements, we will not get it right.
Yes, but my concern is we have leaders already who actually go and sit in the African Union, what you want to term, what you want to get back to OAU. Now, to help someone who is actually viewing right now, because we have president, we have leaders from different countries. These are the people who are getting the message right now. What can they do?
You see, you are not going to get up from here and go to South Africa and start beating the gongo and say, all right, South Africa, come and let's unite. It is not your responsibility. No individual African can do that. Let me give you the example of the United States of America. They got up. It was a British colony, right? They were paying taxes to Britain.
To Britain, yeah.
Like any other colony. They had their British governance at the time. But when they fought the War of Independence, they did not go back to Britain and say, give us independence.
No.
What did they do? They sat together like we are sitting, like the way the African Union sits, and made a declaration that all human beings are equal and the same.
Yeah.
They made a declaration. They did not go to Britain to beg for them to grant them independence. They declared, because they knew Britain it would be very difficult. You know, the liberation war was a war between those who were in America and the British Army.
Yes.
You get the point?
Yeah.
So how do you go back to somebody who wants to subdue you? To grant you? So what they did was a declaration. Pay attention to the word declaration. Pay attention to the word declaration. They declared their independence. And from that day, they cut off that power of control from Britain over America. They cut it off.
They cut it off.
From that day. They said, now let's face our life.
Great Britain.
Exactly, from Great Britain. They said, no, from today, we have declared that we are no more under your command, under your power. You are no more under your control.
What pushes that declaration? What pushed that declaration?
A few people met, like we have the African Union.
Yes.
They meet every day. They talk every day. They act every day. It's the same, just like the Jeffersons and co who sat in the US. Few people sat
with a common mind
and said, look here, we are no more going to, this trajectory must end. We are not going to continue like this. From today, we are declaring. I should have brought you the you would have read it, but I will bring it in our next conversation. I will show you the exact statements that were made on the Declaration of Independence by the American people. So therefore, my point is this. It is the responsibility, the mandate of the Organization of African Unity to organize the unity of the African people.
Not presidents.
Not presidents. Yes, because these are the people whom we erected and they have the power.
Let me tell you something. These animals we are calling countries, I call them colonial resource enclaves. Were not created by us. They were created for the sake of our resources. I want you to keep that in mind. When they were creating those countries, they were not created because of the African people. They were created because of the resources of the African people. That is what I mean by saying that draw a clear line between the conversation on our continent, our homeland, and our people. Take it away. Draw a line between that and the colonial arrangements. Are you getting me? I don't want us to even look at these states. Are you getting me? Those things we call countries.
Countries, yes.
I don't want that to come in our conversation. Because the leaders of these countries they are the first people who will want to delay that unity.
Are you
getting the point?
Yes,
no, but then it is not their mandate.
It's not their mandate.
No. If you wait for them, these are people who will never want to relinquish the arrangement of listening to the IMF, going to the World Bank, going to United Nations. They are part of that system.
You can even see how the so-called opposition runs to report.
You get the point?
To report the government. That is my worry. What I'm telling you is that. What I'm saying is that. Let's be clear. Draw a line. Do you agree we should draw a line? The line is between the colonial system, which is you see in governance on the continent, you see in education on the continent, you see in religion. I told you the 3 pillars of neo-colonization. Yes.
If you are not able to draw a clear line between how we as African people should move forward and the system that is preventing us from moving forward, these presidents of ours, they are all enjoying their positions. And I want them to remain there.
And they are going
as much as they remain there. Let's have one currency. Let the African Union, whose mandate is to unite Africa, must declare that we have one boundary.
So we start with one boundary, declaration of one boundary.
That we are. This is our country. Africa is our country. Identity. That is the first thing they should do. And I think that African people must begin to put pressure on the African Union and the African Parliament to give us one boundary.
One boundary?
Yeah.
We just call ourselves Africa.
Yeah, this is Africa. We are not the ones calling ourselves. That is what it is.
That's what it is. We don't call ourselves.
I don't want to discuss things that are impossible. Is that possible, Doctor?
But how come the Americans declared and rubbished the British and told them from today onwards, you have no power over us?
Yes, because I'm looking at, by the time you say I'm declaring, you have the power.
You can't declare if you don't have the power. You are not sovereign. The day we make that declaration, our sovereignty will come back to post.
Do you have the power yet you are still depending on, you know, those European countries?
Or in what?
Who's
No,
depending on who?
no, in what? We are
so many entities.
No, I'm coming.
Who is
I'm coming.
depending
I'm
on
coming.
who?
We are depending on Europe for what?
For so many things.
Like,
No, there's nothing called so
mention-
many things. Give me specifics.
Okay, education.
Which education?
Education, our education system is Eurocentric.
It has
Is
failed.
it working?
It is Eurocentric.
It has failed.
Is it working?
Let us chase it away.
No,
But
listen.
we have failed to chase it away. If it has failed,
Mulangira.
let it be the other side.
Mulangira.
Yes.
If you continue looking at Africa and African people within the context of Europe, you will never get it right.
But I want you,
And
Doctor,
that is what they
Doctor,
want us to be doing.
Dr. Kojo Ablode,
Yes.
because we want to, like our brothers and sisters who are watching right now,
Yeah.
to get it from, you know, from the grassroots.
What do you call the grassroots?
What I call the grassroots from the beginning, because you know right now you are discussing at a level of someone who is already there. You know.
Can I ask
No,
you a
let's
question?
get back. Let's get back
No, the
slowly.
grassroots
Yeah.
are
Let's get back.
the communities.
Yes, the
The
community.
African community.
Yes, let's start from
Right
there.
from family level.
Yes. What
But
can
the
I
family-
do?
The African family is no more.
It's no more. It is there.
It is going
Okay,
though.
I don't want us to confuse this conversation. You want to know the role of our states, our countries in the unity, in that declaration.
Yeah.
Okay. When the heads of states go and sit in Addis Ababa,
Addis Ababa.
at the African Union headquarters, have you ever listened to their conversations?
Yeah.
Are they thinking about, you know, what they discuss is what they think about, right? Have you ever heard them discussing the unity of one border?
No.
Have you ever heard them discussing one currency?
No.
Have you ever heard them discussing, okay, the common market they are trying to create, but with a lot of challenges? Have you ever heard them discussing one army, one military,
No.
one football team?
No.
Why?
That is now the challenge you're talking
No,
about.
the challenge is their personal, most of them. You know power.
Yeah,
So,
possible.
You know what power is?
So how can we
They
be
cannot
united?
easily relinquish, and I don't want them to. I don't want these states we have, I don't want them to be removed, because it will create more problems for us.
Yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes, yes.
Than just to say, simply say, please, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, Togo, you are still there. Are you getting my point? But Africa now, from today onwards, has one boundary. Then within, even in your village, there are boundaries.
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
In my village, our boundaries are in clans. Are you getting me? So let's maintain but let's have one village. Do you see the difference?
One nation.
So
Let them continue doing what they are doing. They must continue having responsibility for developing
okay.
their nations,
my worry.
their areas. We are not chasing them, but we must make sure that the first things are done first. First thing, the most important thing is that Africans must come from Africa. Therefore, Africa must have one boundary and must be referred to as Africa.
As Africa.
With internal states.
Okay.
The African Union and the African Parliament must give our African people one currency as quickly as possible. You look at what they are saying. OAU was created in 1963. Now the African Union, which is supposed to complete that job in 5 years or 10 years, are saying that they have an agenda called Agenda 2063.
Yes.
100 years.
100 years.
What is the meaning of that?
They still have some time.
No,
to
what
plan.
does it mean for African Union to say that they need 100
Whole
years?
century.
To
It's taking a
change.
whole century.
Guys, let's get serious. For Africa to take the next step, Africans must get serious with very serious issues.
Maybe they don't know what to do. What does it take to have a single currency?
What is it? A declaration.
Just declaration, just like that.
Yes.
Is that
It's a declaration.
Technocrats. No, we have one here.
You leave technocrats.
We have the experts here already.
They will
No.
implement.
They don't need me. If they are doing what they are that organization is created for, would have had one boundary many decades ago. would have had one currency many decades ago, because Kwame Nkrumah talked about one army, the African High Command. Kwame Nkrumah talked about unifying the economy. Those first leaders talked about unity. Are you getting me? Then,
even in the diaspora, the
some way somehow, the same way our homeland was infiltrated and distorted. They infiltrated the African Organization of African Union and distorted it. So some faction is saying, let's go slow. Others say, coming from and say, it must be now.
It must be, yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
But for me, for the African Union to say they need 100 years, none of them will be alive in the next, by that 2063. Those who are saying it, they won't be there. They will not be there.
Yes,
so they don't care what happens. Are you getting me? If they are not willing, from the chairman to his staff, all the way down through their structures, to be honest with their mandate and deliver their mandate to the African people, it will not be long. The African people will demand, them to deliver their mandate.
Will they demand? Wait.
This is the process.
Oh.
People need knowledge. I told you knowledge is everything. People just need
once
knowledge.
the people are educated, that alone will usher it.
I wanted actually to know, first of all, that for example, if we're chasing for a single currency,
We don't need to chase anything, brother.
What do you need?
I hear
what do you
people,
need?
we were having
Where do we start from?
Wait, we were having a conversation. There is no start. The start point is the declaration.
Declaration.
Yes.
That is declaration is just a piece of paper. You read it.
Then you have a program to implement it.
It's a decision.
Then you have
mindset.
Because it's just a piece
mindset.
of paper. Tell me,
wait.
It's not just a piece of paper. It is a mindset. It is a spirit. It is a decision. Now, once you have decided, then you can document it.
No,
Like,
let me ask you. Let me ask you. How long did it? If you want to move from one point to another, you must first decide and declare that I'm going to move from this point to that.
Yes.
Then you
you
now start planning on the things to do to get there.
No, that's
so
what I
now,
want.
Now,
Yes.
when we started the Organization of African Union in 1963, the mandate is to unite Africa. Unless we are not getting the definition.
The mandate is already there, Doctor.
No.
It is there to unite Africa.
Yeah.
So why is
So,
it taking too long?
In uniting Africa, we have some things that we need to look at. For example, one single currency. Now my question is, how are we going to attain that one single currency?
Has Uganda ever changed their currency and printed new ones?
Yeah, it's changed.
That's right. So you print the currency.
Just like that.
Print an African currency for the African people.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. You don't need it. Listen, you don't need. Listen. Listen.
Do you have do you have a bank? Do you have a general?
We have the African Development Bank.
A central bank.
What does it take to create a central bank for Africa?
A central bank.
Yeah.
Do you have a common resource?
The continent is our resource. The people and the environment. I told you the last time.
The resources.
The resources are the human beings and the environment in which we live. That is what we need to develop.
What are we going to back our currency with?
We are talking about sovereignty. We cannot become sovereign if we remain in this as a people. Sovereignty is about people.
Yeah.
People having the power, absolute power, to own and control their resources.
Do we have the power?
That is, where is the power? The power lies with us.
That is, of course, that is in fact Article 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. The power lies in the hands of Ugandans. But do you have the power?
No, but if the person who wants to kill you, if the person who wants
does not lie in the hands of Ugandans.
No, it's what Doctor is.
Are like if you have cattle in paddocks.
Yes.
The cattle, don't you know that the cattle also think that those paddocks are theirs?
Yeah.
Not until you take them to the
another.
But Doctor is saying that we have the power.
Yeah.
For us to be sovereign, we have to be with the power.
Yeah.
But do we have the power? We don't have.
No, but where is the power?
It's just written. Just written on a paper.
Let me tell you, if the African Union
the will
if the
do.
African organization, African unity of the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, which transformed itself dubiously, into an African Union. It was a dubious act. It is I told you, it's a deception.
Yes, yes.
They did that to confuse the African people. Let me tell you, I speak for the African people. I speak for the African people as we are, as they are everywhere on earth.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm not looking at any colonial arrangement. So now the conversation is about our sovereignty, our sovereignty, our power to own and control what we have. Are you getting me?
Yes.
We need systems, we need structures. But that has been taken away from us.
So what
The
shall
African
we do?
Union, the
Yes.
African
What shall we
Union
do in
is
effect?
supposed. I've answered that question very many times. The African Union is positioned with a mandate to do what we must do. Are you getting my point? By one, giving the African people one boundary. Okay?
Yeah.
Leave those colonial systems there. But let the African Union sit up. Let the African Parliament sit up and tell themselves that in the next 6 months, let's make quick consultations, right? Because our situation is dire. Things are not working because we are not sovereign. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. How many military bases do we have? Foreign military bases do we have in Africa?
We have more than 100.
How many military bases does Africa have outside Africa?
I don't know any.
Do you know the purpose of military bases?
Yes.
It's a show of power.
Yeah.
Are you getting the point? To the extent that France tells its colonies that we must stage a base in your country, and as part of the conditions of giving you independence, we can invade your country at any given time. If these countries that have military bases in Africa cannot allow Africa to have military bases in their homelands, then they should pack and get out. And it's the African Union's responsibility.
African Union.
Yeah, they are selling us out.
Get the arms. Chase them out.
Just ask
Is it
everybody.
because they are being funded by the same people?
Of course they are being... No, the point is that they went through their same school system. They have the same orientation. Most of them have worked in the UN. Are you getting me?
So
their
the mentality-
backgrounds,
They are
their
really-
backgrounds,
the
their
Eurocentric.
backgrounds embedded in the colonial arrangement. Are you getting my
Yes.
point? Until they jump out of that box and begin to think about the continent and the people of the continent, from the continent, and begin to have conversations about the continent, and begin to take actions, that will help them, or help all of us, help the continent to get out of this mess of losing our sovereignty. Are you getting me? And bring back our sovereignty. When we wake up in the morning, we think about the African continent. We think about our resources. We talk about our resources. We take actions to use our resources to bring development to our nation and our people. Until they do that, we are not going anywhere. Now, I'm telling you the
Now
agenda.
that they are like keeping a deaf ear.
Not a deaf ear. I think they are also ignorant.
They're ignorant, yeah.
I think there's some amount of ignorance which is in there.
Now,
They are
Doctor-
ignorant about their mandate, and it is also likely that they don't have the capacity to deliver that mandate. I'm suspecting that the African Union does not have the capacity to deliver unity to the African people,
So
because
what
they don't
should
need
we
100
do?
years.
What should we do?
That is the question.
No, what we need to do is to continue doing what we are doing.
What are you doing?
Yeah, because for me, it is about waking up.
Waking up.
It is about knowledge. It's about revelation.
But
it's
what
about,
generation are we talking about here, Doctor? Because when you look at, for example, our leaders, our representatives at the African Union, at AU, I know you don't want to hear that word, African Union.
No,
But-
I'll make do with them. Don't worry.
Okay. Now, they are all educated, by Europeans. They are all funded by Europeans, And
Arabs.
it's their mentality now, all Arabs. It's their mentality.
Yeah.
So how are we going to remove that misinformation from their heads? And you say, you know what? This is what you're supposed to think. This is how you're supposed to think. Because right now they're representing us.
No, the point is this. You know, when something is entrenched over a long period of time, it still needs a long time to
So?
get it out. You get that point?
Yes, yes.
Now, if you go now and interview anyone from the African Union Secretariat, go and interview anybody in any government about this topic of delivering African unity, they will tell you they are on track. Everything is going well.
Yeah.
We are in super gear. African unity is, they might even tell you, it's not the priority. They might tell you it is food security. But once you don't have your sovereignty, you don't have the power to own and control your resources, which are your assets
Yes.
that you need to use to create wealth for your development. If we don't start the conversation from there, we are heading nowhere. What we need to do, you see, if somebody wants to keep you in darkness, he shuts you in a room where there is no light, and you are there, and he's outside. You are locked up.
So you have to
How
find
many
ways.
Africans, individuals, know about the African Union?
African Union?
Yeah,
I think
ordinary.
I think most of them know.
Not the name, because for us, education is knowing the name, where the thing is, and it's 100%. You have passed. Just be able to know the name, identify, and indicate location is enough for you to be a scholar. So, for example, if I ask you, where do we have gold in Uganda? You say Busia, Mubende, it stops there. But whether you have seen gold before or not is another thing. Yes, people have heard African Union. They know it's in Addis Ababa. Do they know the purpose?
They've read about it.
They really know why the African Union. Okay, how many Africans know about?
They've read
the
about
purpose?
it because they teach it in schools.
Oh,
Yeah.
when they tell you the African Union sits
Yeah.
in Addis Ababa, that is all you need to know.
They even tell you the objective, the agenda, and that is it.
Then you stop there.
Yeah.
So have you ever stopped to find out whether they are on track with their agenda, whether they are delivering their mandate? They don't teach you that one.
No, of course they don't.
Yeah, because you don't need to know. That's locking you up in a box. Yeah, if an organization is established for my purpose, and you only teach me the name and where it is, you don't teach me what it is established for. Are you getting the point? How many Africans?
Back.
Even about our resources, how much do we know about what we have? Because they teach us about our resources.
Yeah, yeah.
They tell you gold is in Busia, in Mubende. You say Busia, Mubende, they tick. You have passed. Are you getting the point?
Yeah,
Nobody wants to know. The system doesn't want Africans to know anything about themselves. So it is about knowledge.
Once you get knowledge,
If the African Union and the African Parliament know, let's get the definition of knowledge.
yes.
Knowledge comes with no doubt. If they really know their the purpose of their establishments and their mandates, would have been very far. Because their mandate is very simple. Deliver unity to the African people. And for us to say we are united means we must be in one place. Physically. We must have one military defending all of us. So if you attack Libya, you are attacking the African continent, the African nation. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So
yes.
we don't leave Libya to face NATO because we are not united. Are you getting me? You don't allow that. If
And
we were
we-
united, that will never happen.
And we consider these colonial states as sovereign states. You hear
Yeah, they are not
people
sovereign
talking
states.
about sovereign
Unless you don't know the definition of sovereignty. And now we are going to continue dealing with this topic of sovereignty and deal with this issue of the failure of the African Union and the African Parliament to deliver their mandates to the African people. Not to nation states.
What is putting
They were not created for nation states. They are not created. The African Union is not created for Uganda, Tanzania. No. Kwame Nkrumah Eko were not looking at Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya. No. They were looking at the African people.
Africa.
So if the African Union doesn't get that context clear and engage with the African people and take quick actions to deliver that unity, to make those declarations. I'm using certain words. One of them is for Africa to move, to take the next step. The African Union and the African Parliament. African Union must make certain declarations and the African Parliament must endorse them for the nation states to implement.
To implement?
Yes.
Now, the problem comes in implementation. We are known to be having the best laws. For example, I'm giving an example of Uganda, you know. But when it comes to implementation, that's the problem. Who is going to implement that?
You see, we need to get more serious.
More serious? What do you mean?
We're joking with our issues. With our very serious issues. You can't have an educational system that is built on colonial arrangements to deliver implementation. How? The person who wants to kill you is your doctor. You go to the IMF and they are the ones advising you. Go to the World Bank, United Nations, to advise Africans.
Now, even
when they created the when they created the ICC, it was for African presidents. It was not for anybody else.
Check them.
But the question is, what are we doing in the UN? The UN started as the League of Nations after the first European tribal war.
What do you call
it? It's not a world war.
And
the world is
what we call.
The world is man-made. The world is a system.
It's an imaginary.
It is not part of nature.
The world.
That thing they call the world. Human beings don't live in the world. They live on Earth.
There's no world war.
No, there were European tribal wars.
Doctor, what about the first world, second world, third world?
You see?
And all these
those are people, those are creations by human beings.
Underground
for control,
world.
It's all about sovereignty. First world. They said first world, they are where? Developed.
First world, developed. Most developed.
Then second world, they are middle class.
Middle class.
Middle whatever.
Where we are fighting to reach.
Exactly. Then the third world is
LDCs.
Underdeveloped. Now my question is, yes, they have created this first world, second world, third world. Africa is in the third world. Europe,
many of them African countries,
Europe, all African countries are in the third world.
Not all.
All of us are in the third world.
Not all,
those figures that you and the United Nations, the World Bank and IMF are giving you, they are not correct. Because if they were telling us the truth, they will never declare Africa the poorest continent. So that alone is a big lie. My question, or what I want us to know as African people, is that, you know, in our wisdom, we ask questions. I want to ask a question based on African wisdom. What is they say the first world is developed, they are wealthy, they are rich. As to how they became wealthy and rich is another story. Where did they get the resources from to become wealthy, to become a first world? Is another conversation Africans must begin to question. Okay. Now, what is a developed world, first world, looking for in a poor country, a poor world?
Third world.
In a third world.
They have resources.
What do they want here?
Of course, resources.
Yeah.
To develop themselves.
So we don't need them. Our resources, are they for Europeans?
We don't know what to do with them.
Our resources are there for Europeans. They have their homeland. They have their resources. Now, if you need our resources, you don't have to take it by taking away our sovereignty. Are you getting me? Unless you are an armed robber. Unless you are a robber. You come and we sit down when we negotiate. I need your gold. We go into terms. We will give you the gold based on our terms. How many Africans own mines in Africa?
A few. I just hear just a few names in Congo. Eh?
Are you sure they own those mines?
I don't know.
Or they are
But
proxies?
I just hear them that there is in Katanga there is
No, there is none.
this
Even-
brother who wanted
even
to
in
stand for
South
presidency.
Africa right now,
In South Africa,
over
most of them are
8% of resources are still in the hands of
The Europeans.
Europeans.
the Boers.
Are you getting the point?
yes.
So, for me, we can't go we need to handle the first things first.
Mm.
And the most important thing is our sovereignty. And nobody is talking about it.
Now we have the resources, doctor. We have the resources. For example, I may be having gold in my backyard, but I don't have access. I don't have control. Maybe I have access. I know there's gold there. I don't have control.
Yeah, that's the knowledge he's talking about.
Yes, but the law is giving us. A doctor is now like advising us to cut a tree on which we are seated. Eh? These guys, these Europeans, are funding us.
Why should they? How can a poor man give food to a rich person?
No, no, no.
No, seriously.
I
Why should
beg your
we?
pardon?
No, let me ask you. Why should we even listen to Europeans? Or we even go and sit down and talk to them?
Because we've been trained to do that.
And you don't see anything wrong with that training?
Of course, there is maybe something is wrong, but
Not maybe, there's everything wrong about that training. Your sovereignty is embedded in that.
so first we have to empower ourselves
Not to
economically.
empower ourselves. We need the African Union
Mind
to declare
Mm.
that Africa is now, from this date,
Mhm.
Africa is one country
One
with
country.
one boundary.
Okay.
All Africans are citizens of Africa, and therefore must have one currency and have one passport and give us one military, give us one airline, one football team, one Olympics team. We go to the Olympics and the Football World Cup with one team
As Africa,
as Africa.
Africa against England.
USA is a
Against
country.
USA.
USA is a country.
Uh-huh.
It's almost a continent.
Mm.
Yeah, but they come as one team, don't they?
Yeah,
What
no.
is wrong if we also go as one team?
So now,
The whole
doctor,
of US has one army.
doctor, after declaring,
Yeah.
you know, that we are now a united, you know,
We are now
entity.
an African Union.
Yes.
Because we can't be an African Union until that declaration comes.
What next? What next now? Let's look at, for example, the development now. How can we develop ourselves?
Now, the point is this.
Mm.
Once we have our sovereignty, we'll have the power, okay, to own and control our resources. Because our development is embedded in our resources. You can't take your resources and take them out and give it to people in the raw form. That is happening because we still maintain a colonial educational system that does not teach the people about their resources. They teach the people about their European history, their European wars, their European wars. They teach you about things that you have no connection with. Are we together?
Yes. Yes.
Until we become one and start asking ourselves, if we need do we need an educational system? Yes. What type of educational system do we need? We find the answer. Where should the focus be? I would say anything we teach anybody in Africa must be related to the resources that we have,
That is available in their land. in
that is
area.
available where you are. Because
Oh.
you take it from sovereignty, then you come to sovereign. When you are sovereign, then we can discuss
as a country.
as a
entity.
country,
Yes.
as Africa.
as a nation.
If we reclaim our sovereignty, and reclaiming our sovereignty is simply to stop listening to the United Nations, their dictates, like His Excellency the President always tells them, you stop coming here to lecture us. We should stop listening to the UN lectures immediately. We should stop listening to the World Bank. We should stop listening to the IMF. We should stop listening to everyone, including China, Russia, and everybody, and listen to ourselves. We should stop having any form of conversation with anyone.
With
And
anyone.
yes, and have conversations among ourselves.
Amongst ourselves.
Are you getting the point?
You know, it's
we
like,
should stop doing things based on what people tell us. Does it make sense for foreign countries to have military bases in Africa, and Africa cannot have a military base in their place?
No, it's like when you look at the situation right now, doctor, it's like you're telling a poor man,
Yeah.
who has been starved for long,
Yeah.
to start listening to a rich man who is providing food to him.
What is your definition of
Even
poverty?
if
Don't give me the definition, the United Nations, IMF, World Bank definition of poverty, because for me, as a development person, I will not accept that definition.
we are born because that is what we were taught in school.
You leave that for your colonial arrangement.
So which one can I use to for poverty?
Let me tell you, what is your definition of poverty? My definition.
Our resources.
My definition. My definition of poverty.
Yes.
In the context of development, is lack of resources.
Lack of resources.
Yes.
Okay. Then richness.
It's when you have resources.
When you have rich resources.
Yeah. But because we don't know the value, the volume and value of the resources that we have as a people, as African people, Europeans come and World Bank, IMF, what do you call them? United Nations come and tell you are poor, and then you accept just because you don't know yourself.
And then you start begging.
You don't know what you have.
You even beg.
No, they put that in your mind so that you come and beg. The day you accept that you're poor, yet you are walking on gold, and they bring you religion and tell you will walk on the streets of gold in heaven. Are you getting the point? Then you don't know that you have gold where you are standing, but they are coming for it, and they tell you are poor, and you accept. That definition of poverty is not our definition. Our definition of poverty should be lack of resources.
Now,
simple.
You're talking about, for example,
knowledge.
I'm looking at your approach,
knowledge,
doctor. Yeah. Now I'm looking at your approach from the country level. We are now getting down to the community. To the community.
First, let's deal with the issue of one country.
So if that is done now,
African country. Once we have that, all other things will fall in place.
Not if, when.
When
it is
as
done.
soon as we get that done, everything will change.
So what is the role of the community now? What is my role as an African? What's my role as,
You see, my research area, where I am interested in, is a 3-layer thing. The first one, like I said, is sovereignty. Let's resolve the issue of sovereignty. It's about knowing what we have and having the absolute power to own and control it. That's sovereignty. Let's take Africa to that level first.
How long are we going to wait for that?
No, I said 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah, the African Union should make a declaration and let the African Parliament promulgate it.
And if not?
Are you getting the point? No, 6 months is just, I'm not giving them an order, but in 6 months is enough. In this dire situation in which we find ourselves, 6 months is enough for the African Union to work quickly and set a date and make a declaration that from today onwards we are the African Union and we must be referred to as the African Union, or we must be referred to as Africa. Let that date come and let them make that declaration. That we have one boundary, and then in the next 6 months, we are going to have one currency, one passport in place. It is up to them. It is doable.
Isn't that big? Isn't that too big for?
What is big about it?
Because we are afraid, as for example, as regional powers, we have the East African Community, East African Federation. We are not yet there. Can we achieve the other bigger role?
Who says this one is smaller than the other one?
The East Africa?
Yeah. Because there are a number of states coming together. But the African Union is just a small body, right? The African Parliament has a representation from all these colonial states we are talking about.
You mean the AU? You mean the AU is bigger than the East African Community? I'm
saying the work to do at the AU to declare the African Union. Are you getting me? To say from today onwards, Africa is one nation. Call it nation, one country. Are you getting me?
Yes.
To just make that declaration and let people say what they want. We don't give a damn. Let people feel the way they want. I'm coming. And they declare that, look here, Africa from today, we have one boundary.
No, that's a bit dictatorial.
How? No, it
the way
is
you
their
sou-
role.
The way you sound.
Declare-
It's
That
as
is
if-
that is their mandate.
Who's going to make it? Who's going to make it?
We have a chairman of the
Africans.
commission.
But they don't have a common ground.
No,
they don't
I'm
agree.
coming.
Will they agree?
I'm coming.
Will they agree?
If Museveni gets up today, the president, His Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni in Uganda, gets up today and says, tomorrow, nobody should get out. Will anybody get out?
Of course, that will be him. That will be Uganda. Only.
For Uganda.
Uh-huh.
If in your own home, your wife and your children, and you as the head of the home, you wake up and say, today, we are all going to the garden. Will anybody say no?
Of course, no.
Yeah,
They
so
will
it's the
accept.
same.
But
The
you
point is
talk
that-
about unity. Now, when you bring it to the village level, if I get up today and say, you know what, tomorrow, all of us, we're going to the garden.
Yeah.
Now, my neighbor may have a different view.
But that's, you see,
as we were
But you
speaking
want to
now-
join us
as
a
we
village.
are
now you are
speaking
going,
let's-
you see,
let's-
now your
let's-
neighbor
there is
becomes,
reality.
wait, now your neighbor becomes China.
No, not
Yeah.
China. No. My neighbor,
Okay, maybe
my
I
neighbor
did.
is Ghana. Is Ghana, I am Uganda.
Uh-huh.
Osajefo had a different view. Let's unite.
Yeah,
The likes of our leaders this side, they say, no, let's take time.
yeah.
You know, let it be a process.
Which they have regretted and have said so.
That's what I'm talking about.
They
But
have
the-
regretted.
The other,
it's a
the other,
different-
the other bit of it is that
Mm.
I'll tell you something about Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Mm.
He's a visionary, and he was so far ahead of everybody else in his vision for the continent, for the people of Africa, that they never understood him.
Which was a problem.
Are you getting the point?
Yes.
Now, for him, he wanted things to move so fast, so quick, that people got confused. People did not understand him.
Yes.
Are you getting me? Today, there was kind of a gap between, okay, at that time, between Kwame Nkrumah's vision, positioning what he's seeing, and the rest of the people. That was what made it very difficult. That's what created the Casablanca and the Monrovia groups.
Yeah.
Are you getting the point? But if they had a unified vision, would have been very far by now.
Yeah.
The African High Command would have been in place. All these things we are discussing now would have been there. But people did not understand him. Why? Because there was not enough knowledge among the African people about what was happening. Somewhere we need to be in touch with our people. The African Union, the African Parliament are not in touch with the African people.
Yeah.
Because if they were in touch, why does the African Union not have a television station, a continental TV station?
Potato one.
You guys were trying to do that. Why have they failed? How would they communicate with the African people? How would they get feedback from the African people on their mandates? What channels do they have for engagement, to engage the African people? They have no channels. They are somewhere in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, and the rest of the people are in their villages. They have no idea.
Yes. Different ideologies,
Even in
different.
Ethiopia itself.
Even within Ethiopia, people don't know what they do. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So now, if we really want to take our first step, which I say, it's about sovereignty. It's about the power to own and control our resources. To control what we have. If we don't deal with that, we are not taking the next step. And how do we do that?
How do we do that?
My answer, I'll repeat it
question.
again, is the role, the responsibility of the African Union to make a declaration. To make a number of declarations. But the most important is that Africa is one. From this day, Africa is one.
Africa is one.
Let it be declared.
Let's begin
know
to
it.
solve our internal issues. Where this one says no, this one says yes, those are internal. They have nothing to do with America. America says they are coming to build a base in Kenya. But if the African Union say no, foreign military bases, it means Kenya cannot have it. unless the African people living in Kenya say we endorse. But they cannot put it there if the whole of the continent, which is one, says we don't want a foreign base. Are you getting me?
Who can lead that? Who can
the
be the lead?
African Union has a leader called the chairman of the African Union Commission. There is a leader there. There is somebody who is absolutely responsible with his team of technical people to support that declaration and work towards its effective implementation. Are we going to just fold our hands and say who will do it? Who? The African Union is the role of the African Parliament.
Yes, it also depends on who sits on that commission.
They are there.
You know, what is there? How do they think? What is in their heads?
I will ask the same question. I'm asking myself the same question.
Do you have the same
when
ideology?
When they wake up in the morning, dress up and they are going to their offices, what are they thinking?
What are they thinking?
What is on their mind
It's just
for
a
their
job.
work day? When they meet to discuss their work in their meetings, what do they discuss? When they are taking action, what actions they are taking? Those actions
they have to
for what?
To fulfill the agenda of the sponsor.
African, agenda of
63.
The Organization of African Union has only one mandate: to unite the continent. One.
Yeah.
To unite the continent. And uniting Africa has these elements: one border, one passport, one currency, one military, one economy, one educational system, one... You leave even let these ones be playing with their colonial arrangements.
One president, one leader.
Are you getting
Can that
me?
be possible?
No, the leader we have is the chair of the African Union Commission. Are you getting me? Are you getting the point?
Yes.
It is his mandate to make that declaration. Then when he makes the declaration, let the colonial states come and say we don't agree with you. Then the people, African people, will get up and say, no, we are in for this one. But you remain there. We are not chasing them. Those will be their administrative enclaves. And they have responsibility to follow the same African united formula to develop those places. Are you getting me? We need to turn those colonial enclaves into our advantage and administer them ourselves, not listening to the IMF. How can the American president call 54, 55 African president and say, all of you, enter your jets and fly to America, I want to talk to you.
Africa US Summit.
And they all...
Next
are you getting the point? He is a president. You are a president in your country. You are a president in your country. You cannot call European presidents to come to your country and sit before you and you address them. Do you get that point?
Yes, I get a point.
If they want to talk to Africa, they talk to the African Union Commission. Let me ask you another question. Let me explain something to you. We have 54 states or 55. I think South Sudan makes it 55. Now, if you travel to Sweden, there are 54 African foreign missions. You know how much money we are spending on those things? Go to UK, go to France, go to the US, go to South America, go to China, everywhere. Africa has 54, 55 or so foreign missions. Okay? Yeah. And in the same way, do you know how much money we are spending on all that? In the same way, the Russian president will sit there and say, I want all African presidents to come to Moscow. I want to talk to them. What type of level of... And they go.
Yes, they go because the funder has said, has told.
No, but where is the funds they are giving you coming from? The money we are collecting from there, where is it coming from? It's coming from here. Why don't we take charge? They are still exploiting our resources to enrich their economies. Why don't we stop them?
No one has the courage. Where's the courage?
What courage? What do you call courage?
To stand and say, you know what?
We are just
enough is enough.
We are just being irresponsible.
As Africans?
I think that is also part of the ignorance trail that we have.
African leaders? Now,
No, my
Doctor,
concern is not even our individual leaders.
But you have a very big task ahead of you. Eh?
Myself,
Yes.
me, my task is done. Once you give me this platform,
No. It is because you have now like 55 heads of states to educate. Eh?
No,
Yeah, but with the help of the media.
For us, we're doing our job, but still,
You're not doing it well. Don't take it personal. But you will agree with me that most of the media out there is not working in the interest of Africans.
Yeah, sure.
They are only showing what the former colonialists or these imperialists want us to know, and our children to know. They don't want our children to know that we were once upon a time great people and that we have potential to be great again.
Because when the European colonized us, he also
And
colonized
that
the
is why
information
your
about
role
us.
as TV Africa is great. Yeah.
Okay. Before we break off, because we have to break off and then we call it a program. Doctor,
yeah,
your word to Africans who are listening right now and watching you right now about sovereignty.
very simple. Let's question. Let's get the African Union to deliver their mandate as the very first step. Without that, any other conversation is useless. Africans must begin to question what the African Union is doing for them, and as quickly as when, to deliver one boundary, one central bank with one currency, one military unified with its own command, but based in their different states. So when there are anyone attacks any one of us, or anywhere on the continent, is attacking the continent. We need to develop, once we get that done, then we need to start developing, producing the things we need, using the resources we have. We need to build a very strong army. We need to let our children and ourselves know that we have enemies who want to see us dead, no matter what and no matter how.
Wow.
We must give our children military training, because that is the trend. Okay?
Infants.
As part of their training, because that is what it was in the African pre-colonial time.
Trained from the child.
Every young person, particularly men, are trained to become warriors, to defend their sovereignty. So we need to bring that. Once we have a high command, we must have all Africans trained in their defense, in the defense of their sovereignty, even if it means military training.
Wow.
So, to answer your question directly, we African people have lost our sovereignty through colonization. And we can only regain our sovereignty if we get the African Union to make that declaration, that primary declaration of giving us a homeland which is common to all of us, and give us one passport, give us one currency, and give us everything. Unify the education system, the health system, the transport system, the economy. Unify everything. Let's stand on our own as Africans.
Wow, what can we say? Thank you very much, Doctor. And of course, thank you very much for viewing. And please, we are doing our part, and you also do your part. Share the message, let people know.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Doctor will be here actually to answer each one of you. If you do comment, ask a question, and which I have him back. And of course, the brother here, the researcher, Brother Bongo, Yes, we normally tell you that you are not responsible for your miseducation, but we are responsible for your mental liberation. Yeah. See you when you see us.